minds are already restless, right? They're always moving around already. So all we do is just kind of take that movement onto the Buddhist sphere instead, and then we keep on moving there. So we're kind of addicted to thinking already, so just move that thinking into that direction. But please don't be too trapped by this intellectual curiosity and always roaming about, because in the end it's not going to take you very far. I always think about one of the very funny things about Buddhist translation. I translate quite a bit of suttas and that sort of thing. Suttas is the word of the Buddha, and I translate it from the original Pali language. Pali language closely related to Sanskrit. This is the language that the suttas are written down in. And one of these very well-known words from the suttas is a word called jhana. Many of you have heard of jhana, some of you probably not. Jhana is a state of very deep meditation, right? Extremely deep. So deep that there's no thinking going on. There's complete stillness and absolute bliss in the mind. Very profound and exceptionally beautiful. And when you get there, you're already very close to awakening itself. And then the early translators who translated these words, right? This wasn't in the early days, so we have to excuse them for the kind of the lack of understanding. They didn't really know anything about Buddhism. They had all these strange terms they had to render into English. They didn't really know what they were doing. And one of the famous translations for jhana, which is this very profound, non-thinking state, was musing. Musing, I wonder, musing. Kind of you take out your pipe sitting in front of the fireplace. Dependent origination, avidya paccaya sankhara, delusion leads to sankharas, right? And this, you can see here how some of the most profound things has all to do with Buddhist meditation practice gets distorted into something which is more like an intellectual exercise rather than a really deep and profound state of meditation practice. So this is a danger, and I think that the reason again is because our minds tend to be inherently restless. I think a lot of Buddhist history can be explained by the restlessness of the human mind. One of the great, beautiful things that the Buddha says in the sutras, the Buddha talks about the handful of leaves that he picks up in the forest. This is from from a place called the Gosinga wood. This is where this particular episode takes place. And he picks up a handful of leaves. And he says to the monks, well, what is more, the handful of leaves I have here or the leaves on the forest floor? Right? It's a no-brainer, of course. And the monks dutifully say, oh, yeah, the leaves in your hands are few, the ones in the forest floor are many. Right? That's how it goes in the sutras. And the Buddha says, in the same way, just as the handful of leaves that I have here are few compared to the leaves in the forest, in exactly the same way, what I have taught you is little compared to what I actually know. Right? What I have taught you is little. Why is that so little? Because the only things that I have taught you are those things that are conducive to the practice, that lead to the goal of happiness and away from suffering, eventually take you to full awakening. That is what I have taught you. I have not taught you all the extraneous stuff, all the stuff which is philosophical, right? Which is like metaphysics, ideas about the world, which may be true, but they're not really related to this. And yet, as human beings, we love philosophy. We love to sit back, light our little pipe and philosophize about the about the world, right? We love this, and this is kind of the human state of mind. It's how we act as human beings. And of course, from that restlessness of the mind, from this philosophizing, the Buddha says, don't philosophize. These are the practical teaching. Forget about all the other stuff. And what do the monks do as soon as the Buddha has passed away? They start philosophizing, right? The first thing that's, okay, the Buddha has passed away. Now, the problem is with the Buddha's teaching, right? Okay, he taught all of these things. It's all very nice, all very good, and it's all very practical, but it's not really complete, right? There's little holes here and there. He didn't kind of divide everything up in absolute final terms. He didn't kind of bring it down to the tiniest amount of time. How many bits can you divide a second into? Is it billion or a trillion bits in 1 second? Like how many bits are there in there, right? How many different mind states are possible in this world? How do they all relate to each other? The Buddha kind of said lots of nice stuff, but it didn't lay everything down, right? So now it is our job to fill in all the gaps, fill in all the holes in the teachings, and that is exactly what happened after the Buddha passed away. And from that, the result of all this philosophizing, trying to fill in all the holes, trying to fill in all the gaps, the result of that is what is now known as the Abhidhamma Pitaka. Abhidhamma is sometimes translated as the higher teachings, but they're not the higher teachings, they're just philosophy. It is monks, nuns, perhaps even some lay people were involved, mostly the monks, I think, because they were the ones who kind of were dealing with these kind of things, thinking about things, working it all out, right? And eventually ending up with the Abhidhamma Pitaka. This is Buddhist philosophy for you. Buddhism is not a philosophy here. It's not meant to be a philosophy. It's not meant to describe the state of the world in all its aspects and all its kind of divisions. The Buddhism is meant to be a practical path for how to make your life better. There is a reason why the Buddha did not philosophize, because the Buddha realized that philosophizing is very addictive. Philosophizing is going to take you down the wrong track. It's going to keep on philosophizing forever. There's no end to that. And Buddhist history shows us that there is no end to philosophizing.